Welcome everyone for the chapter number 4 in pharmacology is pharmacokinetics. In this chapter, we will be learning about what are the main 4 processes of the pharmacokinetics, how the substances they travel across the blood plasma membranes, what are the factors that affect the drug absorption, how the plasma proteins affect the drug distribution, what is the significance of the blood-brain barrier, blood-placenta barrier, blood-testis barriers to the drug therapy. We'll explain the metabolism of the drugs, the importance of the first-pass effect. We'll describe how the metabolic enzymes differ in the younger and older patients. We'll explain the significance of this difference to the success of drug therapy. We'll explain how the intermediate products of the drug metabolism may produce more intense responses compared with the original drug. We'll identify the major processes by which the drugs are eliminated from the body. We'll learn about importance of enterohepatic recirculation to drug therapy, how the rate of elimination and the plasma half-life are related to the duration of drug action. We'll learn about MEC, which is called as minimum effective concentration, minimum toxic concentration, and a therapeutic range for the drugs. We'll differentiate between the loading doses and the maintenance doses as well. It's a big chapter, but we're going to be learning a lot of things in chapter. So pharmacokinetics basically focuses on what the body does to the drug. When we take the drug, how our body reacts to it. Is the body accepting that drug or not? So focuses on how the drugs move within the body. 4 absorptions, very, very important to remember. It's A, B, M, E. We never say them as in a big form. In the pharmacy, you will hear this word from the pharmacist or the healthcare workers. There'll be ADME, which is pharmacokinetics. Absorption, how the drug is absorbed, how it is distributed into the body, how the metabolism takes place, and how the excretion of the drug takes place from the body. So in this picture, they're explaining when the drug goes into the body, goes into the stomach, the first process occurs that's called as absorption. After the absorption, that drug, it goes into the small intestine. Again, absorption is occurring. First was absorption. It occurs in stomach and small intestine. Then the drug goes to the bloodstream, into the blood, into the veins, into the arteries, wherever. That is called as distribution. After the distribution, it goes to the liver. In the liver, metabolism of the drugs takes place. And after the metabolism, it goes back to the veins and arteries. I will explain you later where it is going into the blood vessels. And then it goes for the excretion into the kidneys. And then through the urinary bladder, passed out to the urine, it's excretion. When it is going through the urinary bladder, it is going back into like the large intestine also to get in the form of the feces, and in the urinary bladder in the form of the urine into the liquid. So this is how the process goes. You should know which organ is for which type of the pharmacokinetic process. Like stomach and small intestine is for absorption. Bloodstream is for distribution. Liver for metabolism. And for excretion, we have the kidneys and the large intestine. Now, absorption is the first step in the drug transport. It allows the movement of the drug. It is from the site of administration, it crosses one or more body membranes, involves diffusion and the active transport, reach their target cells. What happened when we ingest the drug, when we take the drug? It first goes via esophagus into our stomach. Into the stomach, it gets absorbing there. Absorption occurs with 2 ways, which is called as diffusion and the active transport. So what is diffusion and active transport? It means movement of a particle from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. Now, when we eat the food or anything, we don't have that food in the stomach, but the food is passing in the mouth, then esophagus, and then into the stomach. So it's moving from higher concentration to the lower concentration. Energy is used in that. It's called as active transport. And slowly, it reaches to the target cells via your bloodstream. Now, distribution refers to how the drugs are transported throughout the body, and blood is the only mediator which transports the oxygen, the minerals, the drugs, everything to the target organs. So it allows the binding of the drugs and other substances. And now here we're gonna learn about the word bioavailability that I explained to you in the previous chapter, that it is the amount of the fraction of the drug that finally reaches the systemic circulation to the blood. Only unbound drugs, they can reach their target cells. When we say unbound drugs, unbound means usually the drugs are bounded with the proteins. When we say unbound, it means they are free to move. They're not binding by the proteins. So now they can reach to the target cells. Now, factors that increase the rate of drug absorption and distribution. If you take something in the gaseous form, like you take ginger ale, right? Or any pops which have the gas particles in them, they will be absorbed and distributed faster in the body than the water, than any solid food you eat. They should be able to mix with the lipids. Inside the body, we have the fats. They should be chemically neutral first. Or if they're not neutral, in the stomach, we have an acid, and in the intestine, we have the alkalis or the bases. So first, the food we eat, it gets neutralizes in the body. Then if we eat the warm food, if we eat a little hot food, it is more absorbed, it is fastly distributed. At the room temperature or the cold things that we eat, they are less distributed and less absorbed in the body. Food absence, thin membranes. Now, anything if we eat in the thin membranes, that's why we say if we eat something solid, we should not be throwing inside the mouth. We should be eating in by chewing it a lot, making into the thin layers of the food into the bolus or the chyme so that it can easily absorb and distribute it. More you chew, more you make the thin membranes, more the food will be having a surface area larger. And the larger surface area will be better absorbed and better distributed. Not tightly connected membranes. Now, if you eat the food, if you eat proteins, proteins are tightly connected with each other. Those will be less absorbed and distributed than the other food like carbohydrates you eat. Reduced protein binding, again, if the binding would be more, it will be hard to absorb. It will be hard to distribute. Next is increased body temperature. If you are cold, if your body temperature is down, then the absorption and distribution both will take place slower as compared to if your body is at a normal body temperature. Now, next is the drug-drug interactions. It occurs when the two drugs compete for the protein binding sites. Now, in this, they are explaining us the A drug is a drug exists in the free state or the bound state to the plasma protein, or the B is the drug protein complexes are too large to cross the membranes. So you can see when the free drugs, they go and they combine with the protein, and with the protein, they make a drug protein complex. Inside the body, in the plasma membrane, you have the drugs binded with the proteins. But now the membranes are quite small that a big protein complex cannot pass through. So they have to be unbounded by the protein. If they will be unbinded, then they would be easily available to go into the tissues, capillaries, or to their target sites. That's why we explained that in the previous chapter as well. The unbounded drug or the reduced protein binding will allow the more distribution and more of the. So in this slide, we can explain the drugs which are unbound, they are having more drug-drug interactions because they can just go and they can just go anywhere because they're unbounded with the protein. Now, there are some barriers in the body Three important organs, they contain the anatomical barriers that prevent some drugs from gaining the access. One barrier is in the brain, between the blood and the brain. So anything cannot just go to the brain. Anything cannot just go to the placenta via blood. And the third is the blood-testicular barrier. Next is the metabolism. We're doing ADME. You understand absorption, you understand the distribution. Now we are going to the metabolism. Metabolism is a process whereby the drugs are made less or more active. So their total of all the chemical reactions in the body occurs in almost every single cell and the organ of the body. Liver is the primary site for metabolism. Most commonly used enzyme system, cytochrome P450 system. We have to remember in our body, we have a cytochrome P450 system. It's an enzyme system. When we will read the drugs in the coming few chapters, most of the drugs we have to see either they are compatible with this enzyme or not. They passes the cytochrome P450 system or not. So we have to remember this is the main enzyme present in the liver. There are some inducers, the drugs that we make, they are inducers. These are called as inducers, but they speed up an isoenzyme. And there are some inhibitors. We'll be calling some drugs, this is a drug inhibitor. It means they're slowing down the enzyme activity. And enzymes usually less active in very young and very old, which will impact the drug effects. Let me make you one thing more clear for the students who don't know what the enzyme is. Enzyme is something that speeds up the reaction. In every single part of the body, we have enzymes. We eat something, let's say we eat a bite of anything. If we don't have enzyme in the mouth, that one bite might take 100 years to get it down and absorbed. In the stomach, we have enzymes, which helps in absorption. So everywhere in the body, we need enzymes. So enzymes speeds up the reaction or slows down the reaction. So that is what the function for the enzyme is. It's an intermediator. Now, biotransformation, chemical conversion of the drugs from one form to the another, definitely is called as transformation. And if we add the word bio, it means a biological drug. It results in either increased activity or decreased activity. Now, metabolism, it creates a chemical reaction which deactivates most drugs. You know, metabolism is a term which is made from two words, anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism means joining of the drug and catabolism means breakdown of the drug. When we take the drugs in our mouth, they have to be broken down to leave the active ingredient, and they have to be combined with the proteins or some other things to go to the target sites. So ana and cata, they both are going in combination with each other and they both makes the metabolism. Now, what is prodrug? Drugs that require the metabolism to make them active. These are the products found by the breakdown produce a more intense response than original drug. For example, codeine, which is metabolized to morphine, which has significantly more analgesic capabilities. You will be listening a lot of time. I will say you, esomeprazole is a prodrug of omeprazole. Like this, there are so many other drugs. There will be the prodrugs. So prodrugs are the drugs that require the metabolism to make them active. Now comes to the first pass effect here in this chapter. Now, drugs are absorbed in the intestinal wall. We understand, we read that drugs, they go to the intestine and the stomach. So when the drugs are going to absorb in the intestinal wall, after that, it enters to the blood vessels. And from the blood vessels, if you remember that picture, it is carried by the blood to the liver for metabolism. So now the liver metabolizes the drug. It breaks down, it combines to a less active form. Please understand, liver metabolizes the drugs to a less active form, and it is from there distributed to the rest of the body. This is called as first pass effect. that the drug is either going to liver first or not. Some drugs, they bypass liver. It means they are not showing first pass effect. They are not going to the liver. They're directly going to the bloodstream, right? And that is, in that drug, we say they passes the first pass effect. In this picture, they're explaining here, the drugs given orally, they're absorbed. Number one is A, through the intestinal wall and enter the hepatic portal circulation. And number B, they're explaining, then absorb the drugs are taken directly to the liver for metabolism into the liver before reaching the heart and circulating throughout the rest of the body. This is actually the first pass effect. And some drugs, they have a high first pass effect, and some drugs, they bypass the first pass effect. This topic, excretion, we will be just doing into the next video. Thank you.